I wasn't supposed to be at her wedding. I wasn't even invited. But something pulled me there. Maybe it was unfinished business, or maybe it was the need to see for myself if she was really over me. She stood at the altar glowing, smiling like she'd never lied, never cheated, never begged me to disappear quietly. I should have walked away. But instead, I asked a stranger to dance. Not just any woman. A stunning black woman with eyes like she already knew the ending. And when she leaned in and whispered what she knew about my ex, the room stopped. The music faded. And suddenly, the bride wasn't the only one in white. She was the only one hiding something. What happened next? It shattered everything I thought I knew about the woman I once loved. And the worst part? Everyone in that room would remember that dance, not the vows. Before I tell you how one dance ruined a wedding and saved my life, hit subscribe, because this story will change the way you look at love, loyalty, and lies. Hi guys, my name's Marcus. Not the name I was born with, but that's what you can call me for this story. The story of how one dance changed everything I thought I knew about my past and my future. 2 years. That's how long Lauren and I were together. College sweethearts, as they say. We met sophomore year in that painfully cliché way. She spilled coffee on my favorite shirt at the campus cafe. I smiled instead of getting mad. She offered to pay for dry cleaning, and somehow we ended up talking for 3 hours. I thought we were perfect together. The kind of relationship where you finish each other's sentences, share inside jokes nobody else gets, and genuinely believe you found the one. Until suddenly, we weren't perfect anymore. Looking back, the signs were there. The growing silences, the fights over nothing, the way her smile stopped reaching her eyes when she looked at me. One rainy Tuesday, she sat me down and said those words nobody wants to hear. This isn't working anymore. 6 months later, she was dating Andrew. A year after that, I got the wedding invitation. I stared at that cream-colored envelope for days. Who invites their ex to their wedding? Was it a peace offering, a way to show me she'd moved on, or maybe Andrew had no idea I even existed? The thought made my stomach turn. I almost threw it away a dozen times. My best friend, Sean, thought I was crazy for even considering going. It's masochistic, he said. You're just going to torture yourself watching her marry someone else. He wasn't wrong. The idea of standing there with a fake smile, watching Lauren pledge her life to another man, made me feel physically ill. I drafted at least 10 different excuses to send with my regrets. Family emergency, work commitment, suddenly developed a rare tropical disease. But something kept stopping me from hitting send. The truth was I wasn't over her, not completely. There was this nagging feeling that I didn't have the full story, that I had missed something important about why we fell apart. Closure, that mythical concept therapists talk about in romantic comedies, promised. I wanted to look her in the eyes one more time and know for certain that chapter of my life was truly over. So against all better judgment, against the advice of literally everyone who cared about me, I checked "will attend" on the card. Just me, no +1, because apparently I hadn't punished myself enough already. As I dropped it in the mailbox, I promised myself I'd be dignified. I'd congratulate them both, have one glass of champagne, and leave early, quick and painless, like ripping off a bandage. I had no idea that decision would lead me to her, the woman who would turn everything I thought I knew upside down with a single dance and a truth I never saw coming. The ceremony was as picturesque as you'd expect. A garden venue with white roses and string lights casting a golden glow as evening approached. I slipped in late, hovering in the back row, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. When Lauren walked down the aisle, I felt that familiar punch to the gut. She was breathtaking in her wedding dress, her face radiant with a happiness I hadn't seen during our final months together. I avoided eye contact during the reception line, offering a quick congratulations before retreating to the safety of the open bar. 2 whiskeys later, I was contemplating my escape strategy when Lauren spotted me across the room. The slight widening of her eyes told me she was surprised I'd actually shown up. She whispered something to Andrew, and they began making their way toward me. "Marcus, you came," she said, her voice carrying that artificial brightness people use when they're uncomfortable. Andrew extended his hand, completely oblivious to our history. Apparently, I was just another college friend to him. The small talk was excruciating. Weather, careers, mutual acquaintances, all while I tried not to fixate on her wedding ring catching the light. Eventually, they moved on to greet other guests, leaving me alone with my third whiskey and mounting regret. That's when I noticed her sitting alone at a table near the dance floor. She stood out in a deep burgundy dress against a sea of pastels. Her skin was a rich brown, her curls framing a face that seemed both guarded and curious. As she observed the celebration, something about her seemed familiar, though I was certain we'd never met. Our eyes met briefly, and instead of looking away, she held my gaze with an intensity that made me forget for a moment why I was even there. The DJ switched from upbeat pop to a slow, melodic song, one that Lauren and I had once danced to in my apartment on a rainy Sunday. I watched couples flood the dance floor, including the newlyweds, their foreheads pressed together in that intimate way that screamed, "We're the only two people in the world right now." Something snapped inside me. Maybe pride, maybe desperation. Before I could overthink it, I was crossing the room toward the woman in burgundy. My feet moved with a confidence my brain didn't share. She looked up, surprised, as I extended my hand. "I don't usually do this," I said, "but would you like to dance?" She studied me for a moment, her dark eyes unreadable. Then a smile spread across her face, not polite, but genuine. "I don't usually say yes to strangers," she replied, placing her hand in mine, "but tonight feels like an exception kind of night." Her name was Diana. As we stepped onto the dance floor, I felt eyes turning toward us, including Lawrence. Diana moved with natural grace, her hand warm in mine, a subtle jasmine scent surrounding her. For someone I just met, the silence between us felt strangely comfortable. "So," she said finally, "how do you know the happy couple?" I hesitated, then went with honesty. "Lauren and I dated for 2 years." Diana's eyebrow arched slightly. "Bold move coming to your ex's wedding." "Apparently, I enjoy emotional torture." I laughed nervously. "How about you?" Something flickered across her face, caution maybe. "Let's just say I'm connected to Lauren's past too, though she probably wouldn't recognize me now." As we turned, I caught Lauren watching us, her expression unreadable. Diana noticed too, and pulled me slightly closer, a small act of defiance that made me wonder what story lay behind her cryptic words. "You've got everyone's attention," Diana whispered, her breath warm against my ear, including hers. I hadn't planned it this way, but suddenly I was grateful I'd come. When the song ended, neither of us seemed ready to part ways. Diana nodded toward the terrace doors. "Need some air." Outside, the evening had cooled to that perfect temperature where you don't think about being hot or cold. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, and the distant sound of laughter and music created our own private bubble away from the reception. "So, ex-boyfriend," she said, leaning against the stone balustrade, "got a real name?" "Marcus," I replied, suddenly aware of how beautiful she looked in the soft lighting. "And you're Diana, who's mysteriously connected to my ex but won't tell me how." She laughed, a genuine sound that made me want to hear it again. All good stories need a little suspense, don't you think? She sipped her champagne. "But I'll give you this. I grew up in the same neighborhood as Lauren. We went to the same high school, but let's just say we ran in different circles." There was something in her tone, not quite bitterness, but an edge that suggested history. I didn't push. "What do you do now?" I asked instead. "I'm a civil rights attorney," she said. "I represent people who wouldn't otherwise have a voice in the system." The pride in her voice was unmistakable. "You?" "Environmental engineering," I said. "Not nearly as noble, but I'm trying to make sure we have clean water to drink." "I'd say that's pretty damn noble," she countered, her eyes warming. We talked easily after that about books we'd read, places we'd traveled, dreams we still had. Each revelation made me more intrigued. She was brilliant, passionate, and carried herself with a quiet confidence I found magnetic. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said suddenly. "Were you in love with her, Lauren?" The question caught me off guard. I thought I was, I admitted. but now I'm not sure I even knew who she really was. Diana nodded slowly. That's the thing about Lauren, she said, her voice dropping. There's who she pretends to be, and then there's the truth. The weight of Diana's words hung between us like a physical presence. I studied her face, trying to read what lay beneath her calm exterior. What do you mean by that? I asked, suddenly feeling defensive despite myself. I'd spent 2 years with Lauren. Surely I knew her better than this woman I just met. Diana seemed to debate with herself before speaking. She glanced back toward the reception, where through the glass doors, we could see Lauren laughing, surrounded by admirers. Do you know what she was like in high school? Diana asked, turning back to me. She didn't talk about it much, I admitted. Just that she was a cheerleader, part of the popular crowd, that she worked hard to get into a good college. Diana's laugh held no humor. That's the sanitized version. She took a deep breath. Marcus, the Lauren I knew wasn't just popular. She was cruel. Deliberately, systematically cruel. I shifted uncomfortably. People change. High school was a long time ago. They do change, Diana agreed. But not without acknowledging what they've done. Not without making amends. She turned to face me fully, her eyes intent on mine. Senior year, there was a girl in our class named Jasmine. Brilliant, quiet, scholarship-bound, my best friend. Her voice softened at the mention of the name. Lauren and her friends decided Jasmine didn't belong at their level. They created a fake social media account pretending to be the boy Jasmine had a crush on for years. My stomach tightened. What happened? They strung her along for months, built up her confidence, made her believe someone finally saw her. Then they invited her to prom, had her show up in a dress she'd saved for months to buy. Diana's voice cracked slightly, only to publicly humiliate her in front of everyone. They projected all their private conversations on the gym wall. She left school after that. Never went to college. I felt sick. And Jasmine was. Diana looked me directly in the eyes. She was me, Marcus. I was Jasmine. My mind reeled, trying to reconcile the woman before me with the story she just shared. Diana, confident, accomplished, had been systematically destroyed by the woman I thought I'd loved. But your name, I stammered. I legally changed it after high school, she explained, part of putting the past behind me. Jasmine was the girl they broke. Diana is who I became when I put myself back together. I leaned against the balustrade, feeling unsteady. I'm so sorry that happened to you. It wasn't your fault, she said, her voice gentle now. But there's more you should know. Diana explained how after that prom night, she'd spiraled into depression. Her grades plummeted, the scholarship disappeared, her parents scraped together enough for community college, and she'd worked her way through law school on loans and determination. The worst part wasn't even the public humiliation, Diana continued. It was that Lauren never showed a shred of remorse. Even years later, when I reached out during college, she pretended not to remember what she'd done. I thought about Lauren's carefully curated life story, how she'd always presented herself as someone who'd overcome obstacles, who'd earned everything through hard work and innate goodness. Last year, I saw her name in the papers. Big promotion at her firm, profiled as this champion of workplace diversity, Diana said, a bitter edge returning to her voice. There she was claiming to be an advocate for people like me when she'd never once acknowledged the harm she'd done. The pieces were falling into place. So you came here tonight to confront her? Diana shook her head. I came to reclaim my power, to look her in the eye as my authentic self, successful, strong, and unwilling to let her pretend anymore. She looked down at her hands. Then I saw you looking so lost, and suddenly I had a different purpose. What was that? I asked, my throat dry. To make sure at least one person knew who she really is, Diana answered, and maybe save you from living with more regrets about her than you already have. The wedding reception continued inside, oblivious to the earthquake happening in my understanding of the past. Diana and I stood in silence for a moment, the music floating through the open doors like it belonged to another world entirely. What are you going to do now? I finally asked. Diana straightened her shoulders. I'm going to congratulate the bride. My eyes widened. Are you sure that's a good idea? I'm not going to cause a scene, Marcus, she said with a small smile. But I need her to see me, really see me, and know that I survived. That's all. Something protective stirred in me. I'll come with you. We walked back into the reception together, the warmth and noise enveloping us. Across the room, Lauren was talking with her parents, champagne glass in hand. When she spotted us approaching, a flicker of confusion crossed her face, then recognition followed by something that looked remarkably like fear. Lauren, Diana said warmly, extending her hand. Congratulations on your wedding. It's beautiful. Lauren took her hand mechanically, her smile frozen. Thank you. I'm sorry, have we met? Diana's smile remained steady. We have, many years ago. I'm Jasmine Williams, though it's Diana Carter now. The color drained from Lauren's face. Her eyes darted to me, then back to Diana. Jasmine, don't worry, Diana said, her voice low enough that only the three of us could hear. I'm not here to revisit the past. I just wanted to congratulate you personally and let you know I'm doing well. Very well, actually. Andrew appeared at Lauren's side, sensing tension. Everything okay, babe? Before Lauren could answer, Diana extended her hand to him. Just congratulating your bride. Diana Carter. I'm an old classmate of Lauren's. And apparently a friend of Marcus's, Lauren said, finding her voice. There was an accusation in her tone. We just met, actually, I said. Turns out we have a lot in common. The look that passed between Lauren and me contained a decade of unspoken truth. She knew that I knew, and something in her carefully constructed world shifted irrevocably. The reception continued, but something fundamental had changed. Lauren excused herself shortly after our encounter, disappearing into a back room with her mother trailing behind her. Andrew looked confused, but was quickly pulled away by groomsmen for photos. Diana and I found ourselves back on the terrace, processing what had just happened. Are you okay? I asked her. She nodded, exhaling slowly. Better than I expected, actually. For 10 years, I built her up in my mind as this untouchable force. But seeing her tonight, she looked small, frightened even. You were incredible, I said sincerely. Dignified. I'm not sure I could have been that graceful. Diana smiled. It's taken a lot of therapy to get here, believe me. She looked out at the garden below. The girl I was wouldn't recognize me now. Not just the name change, but who I've become. I thought about my relationship with Lauren, how I'd ignored red flags, dismissed her occasional cruelty as stress or bad days, how I'd been devastated when she left, believing I'd lost someone irreplaceable. I think I always sensed something wasn't quite right, I admitted. There were moments when she'd say something cutting about a friend or a coworker, and I'd feel uncomfortable but push it aside. I wanted to believe in the version of her I'd fallen for. Diana touched my arm gently. We all have blind spots for the people we love. As the night progressed, we watched from our quiet corner as Lauren eventually returned, her smile back in place but her eyes darting to us periodically. She was checking if we were still there, still talking, still comparing notes on the person she pretended to be. I came here tonight looking for closure, I said, realizing the irony. I just didn't expect to find it like this. Diana's hand found mine in the dim light. Sometimes the universe gives you what you need, not what you think you want. For the first time since entering the wedding, I felt a genuine sense of peace and possibility. That was 6 months ago. Diana and I left the wedding together, exchanged numbers, and met for coffee the following week. I'd like to say everything fell into place immediately, but real life isn't that simple. We took things slowly, both carrying our own baggage from the past. We learned that healing isn't linear. There were days when Diana would grow quiet, remembering old wounds, times when I questioned my judgment, wondering how I could have been so blind to Lauren's true nature. But there was something refreshingly honest between us from the start, a foundation built on truth rather than convenient fictions. 3 months after the wedding, I ran into Andrew at a business conference. Over drinks, he confided that Lauren had become increasingly controlling, suspicious of every text message and late night at work. They were already in counseling. I didn't share what I knew about her past, but I did suggest he pay attention to how she treated people she considered beneath her. The test of character, as my grandfather used to say, is how you treat those who can do nothing for you. As for Diana, her law practice continues to thrive. She recently won a major discrimination case that made national headlines. Watching her advocate for others who've been marginalized or silenced feels like witnessing someone transform their deepest pain into purpose. Her strength continues to amaze me. We're dating now, officially. Taking weekend trips to the coast, arguing good-naturedly about music, discovering the simple joy of waking up next to someone who sees you, truly sees you, and chooses to stay. I never came to that wedding looking for closure, let alone love. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. The woman who once cried in my arms now smiling beside another man, pretending none of it ever happened. But the universe has a cruel sense of irony and a perfect sense of timing. Because the moment Diana walked onto that dance floor, calm, poised, and devastatingly aware of every lie my ex had ever told, everything shifted. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence alone was a mirror. And in it, my ex saw everything she thought she'd buried. That night, I didn't just watch Diana reclaim her power. I watched my ex lose hers, piece by piece, behind trembling smiles and stolen glances. And in that quiet chaos, I realized, sometimes the truth doesn't need to scream, right? And if you think this story ends with, I do, think again. What happened after that dance changed everything for all of us.